I finally did it! I managed to link Google Maps and Excel to calculate time and distances between destinations. All you have to do is download the file, the link is in the description. Then you just set up a start destination, an end destination, a few parameters such as whether you're driving, walking, taking public transportation, and then you just click a button and you get the time and distance. Let's go and check it together. I'm gonna focus on showing you how to fill the data and get the answer, and you will see it's super simple. Now, if you are a geek like me and you want to understand the VBA code behind all this, I have another video, the link is in the description, you can check it out. For now, we're gonna delete all this data. So I have a button, you need to enable macros obviously in your Excel sheet. We delete all, and there you go, everything is gone. Perfect. The next thing we need to do is fill the minimum. So the minimum is an origin address and the destination address. All the rest is optional. So I have some from Dubai, for example. You have them here. I'm just gonna copy paste. I will paste them here. So this is the origin address and this is the destination. You need to worry about the mode. So if I check here, I have driving, walking, bicycling, and transit. If you don't put anything like I'm gonna do, it will assume that you are driving. This is how the code is set up. Now, if you want to know what's in each of the drop-down menus, well, you have everything here. Those are the 4 I showed you, and there are some others. We're gonna go through them. Now, I have everything. If you see, all those are optional parameters. The answers will come here. So we have the distance, the time, etc. Let me show you. Now, once you have your 2 addresses, you just need to click on this button, Get Time Distance. Only problem though is you need an API key. So the API key, you have to paste it in cell B2 here. I have one, but I put it in gray so you cannot see it. There are some steps to get an API key, and there are some detailed steps. So if you download this workbook, you're gonna see them. I'm gonna show you how to do them in this video, but I don't want you to look at this as a shiny toy and start playing, getting wrong answers, etc. I want you first to focus with me, understand how it works, and then we'll get the API key and you can try it out. So let's go back. I have everything. I'm just gonna click on the button. So here I have 1 row to process. That's perfect. I have this message because if you have more, for example, and you are not aware, you might get into trouble because every time you process a row, it will use 1 API call, so it costs money. Now the API key that you get will give you like $300 of free to test, and every month you get $200 free. So there is a lot of free. Obviously, if you implement this in a big process and you're using it a lot, then you will have to pay. But now let me just put yes, it's processed. Let's go here and see what happens. So I have 20 kilometers between the 2 locations, and it will take me 18 minutes. So if you want to take this is like the number of minutes. It's just the number. Here you have text next to it, and here you have the number of kilometers. What is important is this, origin address and destination address. If you look, we have Marassi Drive, for example, and if we look at what we wrote, it was something else. Now, Google Maps understood that this address is actually Marassi Drive, and it's correct, but this will show you what the API is taking, and you can check whether it's correct or not. It's an additional check. Then you have this crazy URL. I'm just gonna copy it. And if we go here to our browser and paste it, let's press enter and see what happens. You can see everything. Those are the addresses, this is the distance, and this is the number of minutes. So what we are doing is just take your inputs, we send it to the API and get this result, extract the values, and you get them in the cells. As simple as this. Let's come back and let me show you what else you can do. Some of you only have the latitude and longitude, and I have taken care of this scenario also. So for example, if I come back, you have here latitude and longitude. I'm just gonna copy paste them. This is from another place. So I have them here. It will work also. So for example, if I click, now I have 2 rows. I'm gonna process them. And let me see what happens. You can see we have 35 kilometers, we have the time, and we have the addresses corresponding to those latitude and longitude. Perfect. Now you're gonna tell me, how do I get the latitude and longitude? The first way is manual, obviously. So if you go here, for example, we want for Cour Jardin, we're just gonna go. We can put here Courjardin and we can just type enter. You will see it on the map. You right click, you get those two. It's just saved automatically if you just click on them. You can put them here and then you can extract the latitude, Control C escape. I'm gonna paste it here and the longitude is this one. Now be careful, I have my system in the US zone. So it's taking, for example, a point here, a comma to separate. If you are in Europe, you might have differences and you might have problems with latitude and longitude. But I'm just showing you how it works. The other thing I want to show you, if we check those two addresses, we go here, you can just put them in Google Maps. For example, they are here, I just put them. You know how to use Google Maps, super simple. We click here to drive, you will get your 18 minutes and 20 kilometers. So if I go here, this is my 20 kilometers and 18 minutes. So it works as if you went to Google Map and you got the data from there. Now I showed you a case where you only have the two addresses. Here you have the two latitude and longitudes. What if you have both of them? So what if I had something, for example, like this? I'm just gonna copy paste. And then what happens if I click on the button? Well, there is a priority, as you can see, for the latitude and longitude. So it will take the latitude and longitude and ignore whatever you have in your addresses. So those two cells will not be looked at in the code. Now, what if I have a case where I have half-half? For example, I have the name here, I have nothing here, or I have, for example, just the longitude, so that doesn't help me. Let's assume you have it like here, and assume that here you have the latitude and longitude, only you don't have the name. Well, in this case, it's not gonna work. Let me show you. I'm just gonna copy paste it and delete everything else. If I press on the button, do you want to process yes? It's gonna tell me that it skipped the row because we have missing data. So make sure you have either the two addresses or the two latitude and longitude. Now let me come back and get the other address. And now I will show you something else I've developed. So here, for example, you have the address. You want to check the latitude and longitude to make sure that you have the right place. So I have this button. Again, it's going to use API calls. In this case, it's going to use a couple of API calls. Let's just click on it and it will do it for both addresses. So you can see this is the lat long, for example, and you have it on Google Maps. So if I click on the link that is automatically generated, you can see that we get to the same place, the Marassi DR, Marassi Drive, and this is the same place for this address, which is perfect. Now you can keep those. Again, it's going to take the latitude and longitude as a priority or delete them like I'm doing. Now it's time to look at other parameters. So we saw here that you can drive, but you can also, for example, walk. So let me show you. Here we're going to put another address, Dubai Mall. Otherwise, you're never going to make it, I think. And let's see what happens if I just walk. We're just going to click and we'll go here to see. You have 1.9 kilometers. It takes 27 minutes to walk and you have the two addresses. So it works also. You can play with this. Now, if you select, for example, transit, this is public transportation. Here you have options for transit. And again, they are in this drop-down sheet. So by default, if you don't put anything, it will take the subway. If you want another one based on transit here, you can select it and that's it. But don't put, for example, that you want to drive and then that you want to take the subway, because otherwise you'll get a wrong result. So I'm not going to test this case, but I just wanted to show you. There is another thing that I wanted to show you, which is the traffic model. Now by default, it takes the best guess, but you can also try the other options. Honestly, not worth it. I just kept it here in case you need it. What is interesting actually is what you want to avoid. So for example, if I'm driving and I want to avoid, let's go here. We have tolls, highways, ferries, and indoor. I want to avoid tolls. What will happen? So I'm just going to type here tolls and I'm going to try it. Let's go back to this address where you can drive. There we go. Let's click and see what happens. It worked. You remember it was like 20 kilometers and 18 minutes. you can see that now you have different values because you avoided tolls. Now, if you want to avoid, for example, tolls and highways, what you need to do is just use this character and type highways. Make sure that you type the right way. And now if we just click, we might get something completely different. Let's see. You see you have another number and another number of minutes because again, you are avoiding different things. And if you go to your Google Maps, you have here highways and tolls, and you can see that if you select them, you're gonna get different values. For example, 31 minutes and 24.2 kilometers. You should get the values here, 24.2, 31 minutes, perfect. Next, I'm just gonna delete this. We have the unit. So here we have metric, which means kilometers. I know if you are in the United States, you like miles. So you can use imperial and click on the button. And you can see that now we have 12.4 miles. I'm just gonna delete it. By default, it's metric. Then you have region, bias, and language. What does it do? Well, first, let me show you. If you go here, you can see the languages and the abbreviations, and you can see the regions and the abbreviations. Sometimes you'll have a case where you're looking for Paris. Now, Paris obviously is in France, but some of you might not know that we have Paris in Texas in the US. So if you are close to the one that is in the US, it might make a mistake and take you to the wrong one. So in this case, you can just go here and select the right code. So for France, it's FR. Why? Because if you just go here in the codes, you can do Ctrl F and just type France. You will see that France is FR. So you can select this. Now, normally for region and language, wherever the computer is, it will automatically default to that. So for example, if my computer is in France and I type Paris, it will search for Paris mostly in France. You don't need to change it. But I know sometimes you'll have problems, so you can start playing with this. This one will use the language. Let's say, for example, you are looking for somewhere in Spain and street in Spanish is actually calle. So if you write calle in the address at the beginning here, it might have some problems. Again, it will default to the language where you are, where the computer is. But in case it doesn't, you can select a language. For example, Spanish is ES. And again, you can find it here. If you look at the languages, you have a few here. This is Spanish and you put ES. Now we are left with the departure time, which is a big one. I know some of you don't want a departure that is now. You want it at a time where, for example, there is traffic and you want to know how long it takes, where this is where the departure time comes into play. Now, automatically it assumes that you want to depart right now. But what if I want to check another time, another day, etc.? What do I do? Very simple. Here, the time that you're gonna put is the time that you have on your computer. For example, for me, it's 6:23 p.m. So I know my time. I want to depart, for example, at 7 p.m. What do? I put the day, so we are on the 12th of October 2024, space. Let's say I'm gonna say 7 space and p.m. So I'm gonna depart in like 37 minutes. So I will get it this way. The other thing I need to do is check the difference between my local time and GMT. So what I can do is just come here and say difference between GMT and Ecuador, because I'm in Ecuador right now. So it can tell me, I can check, for example, a few things. Let's check, for example, this one. You can see that the difference is minus 5 hours. So GMT is actually 5 hours more. So what do I do in this case? My time is 5 hours less than GMT. I'm going to put minus 5. That's the only thing I'm going to do. If I click, I don't think it's going to make a difference, but we can see this is the result. Now, if I select a time and date that has already passed, so for example, for me it's 6:24, but I put 5 and I have GMT minus 5, what will happen? Let me just click on the button. Do you want to proceed? We have an error message. The row was skipped due to departure times in the past. This will make sure that you don't have errors with the API. So this is how it works. Basically, you can play with it with all those parameters and check what you get. Now, the most important thing is how to get this API key. So let's do it together. We're just gonna go to the detailed steps. So first of all, you need to have an account in Google Cloud. This is the site. So I'm just gonna take it, Ctrl+C escape, go here, and we're gonna paste it. I already have a Google Cloud account, so it already signed me in, but if you don't, it's very simple. You're just gonna go, it will ask you for your email, etc., and you will just put it and get to here. The next step, if I go here, you need to create a project. So we need to go, let's go back here. This is my first project. I can click and here I can create a new project. So for example, this is a name, you can give it a name. You need to select your organization. So my organization is called No Organization. You might have another name. You might set up one. It's up to you. And then you just create this project. So now it's creating my project. Perfect. And you can see you have 300 credits for free. So if you want to test it, it is free. And then it will give you, I believe, $200 per month. So you have a lot of free credits. But if you want to use it for something real, then you will have to pay. So now I have the project. I can just see it here and I can just select it. So we have selected our project. Let's go to the next step. We need to set up the billing. Now it will require you to have a credit card. You need to set up a billing. It's not going to take money from you unless you really activate the whole thing. So don't worry about this, but I'm going to show you how you can set up the billing. So to set up the billing, you're just going to go here and you have billing and you have my billing account. So if you manage billing accounts here, you can create another account. Here you will have nothing probably. So you create the account, you select the country. For example, if I put United Arab Emirates, I continue. I have another account. I can set up the whole thing and I can put my credit card here. Now, if you submit and enable billing, what will happen? You have to proceed to verification. You'll get a code. You put the code and then it's gonna work. In my case, I'm not gonna do this. I already have a billing account. I need to make sure that my billing account is linked to my project. So if I manage the billing account, I can see the projects here. So you see this is the new project. You can, for example, disable it. You can change the billing, etc. Let me show you. So for example, if I disable billing, I don't want to do it for this project and I want to add it. What do I do? Well, what you can do is just go to Manage Billing Accounts. And here you're going to see my projects. And here you have the second project. You see there is no billing account. So you just come and you can do change. You can select a billing account, the one that you have set up. And you can just put it. There we go. Now we have the billing account. Perfect. Let's continue and see what else we have to do. We have to enable the APIs. Here we have two APIs. We have distance matrix and we have geocoding. So I need to go to this API library. It's a bit confusing at the beginning, but then you're gonna get used to it. So for example, here we have API and services library. I go to the library. I can put distance matrix, for example, it's here. Let's close this. This is the distance matrix. You can enable it. This is the new project that we have. We can enable this one as simple as this. Once enabled, you're going to get your key. So I can just copy my key. Obviously, I'm going to delete it later on. But I'm just going to put it here in my Excel sheet. And you can also create a budget, etc. Doesn't matter. Here you have some restrictions. So you can restrict it from being used because now I have an API. If anybody gets it, they can use it and charge me. So you can read about this and put some restrictions, for example, API restrictions, etc. I'm not going to do anything because I just want to show you how it works. And don't worry, if you don't share this, I don't think that people will be able to use it, but just be careful and save yourself. We have the API, that's perfect. What we want is the other one. So the other one is called geocoding. We can search for it here, geocoding API. The same thing, we can just enable it. So now my project has two APIs that are enabled. Perfect. Let's go back and see what else we have to do. This is the restriction part. We saw create an API, set restrictions. You can read this. to see how you can set restrictions, and you need to put the API in cell B2 here. So you just copy paste it, we put it there at the bottom, but you have to put it in cell B2, otherwise it's not gonna work. Let's continue. You need to test it. So for example, I have here something, so I'm just gonna take it down, take my API, copy it, escape. I go here, I have API key. Let me just make this a bit bigger. We put the API key, we paste it. We press enter, and now we can just copy paste it. So we copy paste it, escape, we go to our browser, and we paste it. Here, if I press enter, I should get a result like this one. If I don't get this result, it means there is something wrong. You either did not enable those APIs, or you have a key that doesn't work. Obviously, in the whole thing, I have the test for the geocoding. The distance matrix is what will give you the time and the distance, what we have seen at the end, so those ones. And then the other one will give you the geocoding, which is the latitude and longitude. So you can test both of them. I just tested the first one. You can test the second one. If it works, you just put the API key and you're good to go.